This Christmas came quietly, almost politely, as if it didn't want to disturb anyone. The lights were up, the streets were glowing, and everywhere you looked people were smiling for photos that would later be captioned with words like "Blessed and she," "Grateful." But inside one small house, Christmas felt heavier than it ever had before. Daniel sat alone at the dining table, staring at a cold cup of coffee that had been untouched for hours, watching the steam disappear long before the warmth ever reached him. Outside, he could hear laughter drifting through the walls, children shouting with excitement, families celebrating together like the world was exactly how it was supposed to be. Inside, the silence felt loud enough to press against his chest. Just 1 year ago, this same table had been full, so full that there was barely room for the dishes. His father had been carving the turkey, pretending not to notice how everyone was watching him like it was a ceremony. His mother had been humming a Christmas song under her breath, slightly off-key, smiling every time she caught Daniel looking at her. His younger sister had been arguing playfully about who got the bigger gift, and Daniel had rolled his eyes, thinking it was annoying in that way that only family can be. Back then, Daniel believed something without ever questioning it. He believed there would always be another Christmas, another chance, another year. He was wrong, and the realization came too late to fix anything. This year, there was an empty chair at the table, then another, and then another, each one like a quiet reminder of what had been lost. His mother had passed away in the spring, suddenly and quietly, the kind of loss that doesn't give you time to prepare or say the things you thought you could say later. His father never truly recovered from that loss and followed her months later, as if his heart had decided there was no reason to keep going. His sister had moved far away, drowning in her own grief, and the distance between them grew with every unanswered message until silence became normal. And now it was December 25th again, the same date that once meant warmth and noise and belonging, now reduced to a day that felt like it existed only to remind him of everything he no longer had. Daniel picked up his phone and scrolled through old messages, his thumb moving slowly as guilt settled deeper with every swipe. Missed calls from his parents that he never returned, short replies sent in a hurry, excuses wrapped in promises like, "I'm busy, I'll call later," and the one that hurt the most, "Next week, I promise." Next week never came, and the finality of that truth hit harder every time he read those words. He remembered how last Christmas his mother had asked him to stay longer, how she stood in the doorway with her coat already on, smiling softly like she already knew the answer, but hoped anyway. "Just one more day," she had said, her voice gentle, the kind of gentle that doesn't demand anything, but still carries so much meaning. Daniel had been in a hurry, his mind already racing ahead to work, deadlines, and the endless list of things he told himself mattered more. "I'll see you next year," he replied casually, not realizing he was planting a sentence that would later grow into regret so heavy it felt unbearable. That sentence echoed in his mind now like a curse, repeating itself over and over until it felt impossible to escape. "I'll see you next year." There was a knock at the door, sudden and unexpected, pulling him out of his thoughts. Daniel hesitated, unsure who would even come, wondering if it was just another reminder that the world was moving on without him. When he opened the door, an elderly neighbor stood there holding a small envelope, her hands slightly trembling. as if she understood the weight of what she was carrying. She looked at him with a softness that felt almost painful. "I found this while cleaning out your parents' old mailbox," she said gently. "It's addressed to you." Daniel thanked her, his voice barely steady, and closed the door slowly, his hands shaking as he stared at the envelope like it might disappear if he didn't hold on tightly enough. Inside was a letter, folded carefully, the paper slightly worn, as if it had been handled more than once. The handwriting was unmistakable, his mother's. He sat back down at the table, the same table that once held laughter and arguments and love, and began to read. "Dear Daniel," the letter began, and his throat tightened immediately. "If you're reading this, another Christmas has passed. I hope you're not too busy today." He could almost hear her voice saying those words, half teasing and half serious, the way she always spoke when she didn't want to sound like she was asking for too much. "I know life moves fast," the letter continued, "but please remember this. Nothing is more important than the people who love you." His vision blurred as tears welled up, each word cutting deeper than the last. "One day the house will be quiet, the table will be empty, and you will wish you had stayed longer, talked more, listened better." She had written this last year, long before she knew she wouldn't be there to see another Christmas. And yet, somehow, it felt like she already understood exactly how this day would look. The letter ended with one line that shattered him completely. "Promise me you won't wait for next year to love people properly." Daniel broke down in that moment, the kind of breakdown that comes when everything you have been holding in finally demands to be felt. He realized something terrifying as the weight of her words settled in. Christmas doesn't warn you when it's your last one together. People don't announce that this will be the final laugh, the final hug, the final dinner around the table. It just happens quietly, like this Christmas had, and then it's gone forever. And next year, all you're left with are memories and regrets that play on repeat in your mind. He thought about how many people right now were doing exactly what he once did, ignoring calls, postponing visits, assuming there would always be another holiday, another chance to say what mattered. But life doesn't work on promises, and time doesn't slow down just because you ask it to. Daniel stood up slowly, wiped his tears, and picked up his phone with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in months. He called his sister, his heart pounding as the phone rang longer than he expected. When she finally answered, her voice was quiet, guarded, like she was afraid of what the conversation might bring. "Hey," she said softly. "I'm sorry," Daniel replied immediately, the words spilling out before fear could stop them. "For everything, for disappearing, for thinking I had more time. Please, don't let another year pass like this." There was silence on the other end, heavy and uncertain, and then he heard a soft sob that broke his heart all over again. I was thinking the same thing," she said through tears, and in that moment Daniel felt something shift inside him, something fragile but real. Outside, fireworks lit the sky, welcoming the coming year with noise and colour and celebration. Inside that house, something changed quietly, the way the most important things often do. Daniel knew the pain would never fully disappear, that some losses carve spaces inside you that nothing can fill. But he also knew this story wasn't just about him. It was a warning, not wrapped in fear but in truth, meant for anyone listening. because next Christmas might come with empty chairs too, and once that happens, there is no rewind, only regret and the hope that someone else hears this story in time to choose differently.